Hey, good morning, everybody. Good morning, good morning, good morning. We're holding on page number 8 over here in this book, in the Tanya.
We made it to page 10.
Oh, yeah?
We started chapter 3.
No, we haven't. But
That's
okay, we can go to chapter 3 too. Same thing. Okay, starting chapter 3.
and we
Same thing. So the Alter Rebbe continues here explaining. No, we haven't got to chapter 3. That's for sure not.
No.
But I'm holding page 8, right? That's you're too far for me. Holding about the last ending of that right column on page number 8. So the Alter Rebbe explains that everything that the Torah tells us, that everything in the world, expression kulam b'chachma sisa, that everything was created from the concept of wisdom. You, as he says, you can see it's hard. You made them all out of wisdom. That line, see that? But it says in number 22 over there. You made them all out with wisdom. The nefesh, ruach, and the neshama of an ignorant, unworthy come into being. Everything comes out of wisdom. So irrelevant if a person thinks he's a great sage, or a person knows that he's a simpleton, he's an unknowledgeable entity. Nevertheless, he comes from God's wisdom, because he's a created entity. Whether he's important or not, whatever he has in his mind, what he is or not, has nothing to do with how he was created. And everything was created from God's wisdom, the most highest thing in the world, the most lowest thing in the world. And therefore, what is there by God, the concept of higher and lower? There's no concept by God, something that is infinite, the aspect of higher and lower. It's all in this world, in the finite world, that we have a concept of higher and lower. We've created this higher and lower hierarchy in the world in general, the powerful, the weak, the rich, the poor. By the Eibishter, there's no concept. Everything is one. It's all one. Hashem Echad. The Eibishter, by God, everything is one. And therefore, the powerful, the weak, the rich, the poor, each have their avodah, each have their service in the world. And you cannot live in a world without the rich, and you cannot live in the world without the poor. You cannot live in the world without the smart. You cannot live in the world without those that are simple. You have to have everything in this world. And Halavai, we all realize that. And we all realize that ultimately we come out of the wisdom of God. What means the wisdom of God? When we say the Eibishter has a wisdom, we express the wisdom of God. It means wisdom in a human being. What's your wisdom? Well, I know you can say what your emotions are. You can say what your feelings are. But what's your wisdom? You ever thought a moment before you have an emotion, if it's connected to wisdom, or it's totally connected to your emotions? Mind over matter means that even if you have an emotion, we should all have emotions, and we should all have passions. But what's the wisdom in it? What is the purpose in this emotion? What are you getting angry about? What are you getting passionate about? Why? What is the purpose? And if there's no purpose, no wisdom, then why are you doing it? So everything needs to have an emotion. Everything needs to have an intellectual concept. If I'm a wise person, if I have a person that has wisdom, so then everything I do is done with wisdom, even my emotions. When I get angry, there's a wisdom behind it. There's a purpose behind it. When I get happy, there's a purpose behind it. Moshe Leitzim Yashav, the Gemara, the King Solomon, King David says, I don't stand in the midst of those scoffers, people that laugh and merry for no purpose, thus for the concept of frivolity, thus to make laughter, thus to have I don't know what the right English word is, but that's frivolity. Yeah. Folly, no purpose, no agenda. Yeah, you should be happy. You should sing, make jokes. The Gemara says that the great sages didn't start to learn without a joke, without a say a joke. Why? Because there was a purpose behind it. So kulam b'chachma sisa. Everything was created through wisdom. Even if you're going to go to the lowest level and you're going to be on the lowest level in life, there has to be a purpose. There's got to be a reason why I'm doing it or why I'm not doing it. That's nevertheless, they remain bond and united with the wonderful and essential unity with the original essence and entity, name of the extension of Chochmei Lah, the supernal wisdom. Our wisdom, how limited it is, should always be connected. Kabbalah says it should always be connected to Chochmei Lah. It should always be connected to the supernal wisdom. And that's why we should do everything al pi halacha. We should do everything according to the Torah view of things. We should do things, even kindness, even tzedakah, even all these basic needs, things we do should be done the way the Torah wants it to do it, not just because we're just good people, which we should all be, but we should be good people based on the aspect of Torah, on the concept, the way the Torah wants us to be good people. And it says expression is that we, just like God is merciful, we should be merciful. Just like God is charitable, we should be charitable. You have to learn from the Eibishter what means, from God, what means tzedakah, what means charity. We need to learn from God what means mercy. And that's where our wisdom will always be connected to the supernal wisdom, which is called in Kabbalah, Chochmei Lah, the supernal wisdom. In so much as the nurture and life of the Ruach, Nefesh, Ruach, and Neshama of the ignorant are drawn from the Nefesh, Ruach, and Neshama of the saints and the sages, the heads of Israel in their generation. The Kabbalah Chassidus says, that God puts tzaddikim in the world. Tzaddikim in the world, righteous people in the world are put there in the world so that we, simple people, will be able to be inspired. That's why in Kabbalah, they're called shepherds. The shepherd, Moshe Rabbeinu was called the shepherd. Mehemna, the shepherd. Right? What's the expression in the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not lack. I don't want, right? A shepherd makes that the sheep shall not want, right? Shepherd, the prophets, the tzaddikim are called shepherds. Shepherds, they shepherd faith. They inspire people like us, because tzaddikim are like people like us. They're not deities, God forbid. They're human beings, and we know their shortcomings as a human being, and nobody's infinite, only God. And every human being is finite, even a great tzaddik. But they have the capability, and they brought down to the world to inspire us, to inspire people like us,
and to lead the path,
and to inspire us in faith, to have faith, to have a munas chacham. That's why the pasuk says, "Vayaminu b'Hashem u'b'Moshe Avdei," and they will believe in God and in Moshe Rabbeinu. Moshe Rabbeinu, munas chachamim. And munas chacham is a very important thing. Every Shabbos, you're supposed to eat shalom, hot food. Why? You should always eat hot food on Shabbos. Why? Because that shows your munah in chachamim. That shows your faith in the chachamim. There's a big fight between the Sadducees and the Pharisees. It was a big fight. It's dukim. If you're allowed to have hot food on Shabbos, and the chachamim said you're 100% allowed to have hot food on Shabbos, and they said you're not allowed to have hot food on Shabbos. Shabbos is supposed to have everything cold, no fire at all. On Shabbos, no heat on Shabbos. Everything has to be turned off before Shabbos. And the chachamim said no. You're allowed to start the food cooking before Shabbos and continue cooking on Shabbos, and have hot food on Shabbos. And therefore, they came up with cholent. That's how cholent was. How do you have a food that cooks can simmer for
a week?
It does simmer for a week in your stomach. So how do you have food that can be able to cook throughout Shabbos? Is cholent. So therefore, everybody should eat cholent on Shabbos. should eat hot food on Shabbos, Chamim b'Shabbos, to show emunas Chachamim, should show the faith in the sages, that the Chachamim wanted Yidden to enjoy Shabbos, not to Chas Shalom have a miserable time on Shabbos. They wanted people to enjoy Shabbos, to have Chamim on Shabbos, to have hot food on Shabbos. The Chas Shalom, God didn't want a Jew should not enjoy the Shabbos. Actually, the opposite, you have to have tainig with Shabbos. It's a mitzvah to have delight on Shabbos. How can you have delight on Shabbos and everything is going to be cold? Everything's not going to be any warm, hot food. You're not going to have a cup of coffee. You're not going to have a hot cup of tea. If you're not going to be able to, if you're not going to listen to the Chachamim, which is the concept of tainig Shabbos. So the Chachamim said that and so based on the Torah that we should eat the hot food on Shabbos, and therefore by Yaminu B'Shem Meishabde. That's the concept of belief in the Eibishter and the Meishtamei. The Kabbalah says the Yidden stand up for the Torah if they would realize that whatever something was done, that we should all stand up for the Torah. But we should, if we stand up for the Torah, you should stand up for a Talmid Chacham too. You stand up for a great sage, because the sages brought a lot through the teachings of the wisdom of their teachings of the Torah. They brought a lot of oynig, a lot of delight, and a lot of beauty to the Torah. Lahagdil Torah ladira. Torah was given to expand upon, and that was the Torah Sheba'al Peh. That's the oral law, which continues to be expand upon and continues to grow through the sages from generation to generation. So this is what this explained. The commentators, our sages, the Alter Rebbe says. The pasuk says, "Lidavik va'atem hadveikim," right? That you shall cleave l'davka bay. The verse says, "You shall cleave to Him." How do you cleave to God? How do you practically cleave to HaKadosh Baruch Hu? Eibush is the infinite aspect. We're very finite. How do we cleave to God? And the Gemara says, he who cleaves to a scholar of Torah is deemed by the Torah as is if he become attached to the very Shekhinah divine presence. Our Chassidim and a Rebbe aspect of Chassidim.
Say that specifically.
Deuteronomy, chapter 30, verse 20.
You know that on the top of your head?
No, I looked at 23. Not what you know, it's I know where to look.
Very true.
Deuteronomy.
You need a hummus.
You know, there's many psukim. This is one pasuk. Va'atem hadveikim b'Hashem Elokechem chaim kulchem hayom. You have another pasuk. You shall cleave to God and live forever. So you have many psukim over here. L'davka bay. We can get the pasuk. Here, give me. Say the pasuk. Let's say the pasuk. The Alter Rebbe brings down over here. Deuteronomy. This is the 30:20. Yeah, the pasuk in the Torah. Okay. Verse number 20. So I've given testimony that I've given you life and death. The blessing and the curse. And you shall cleave, you shall choose life. So you and your children will live. To love your God, to listen to hearken to His verse, to cleave to Him.
Actually, what she's probably asking, not so much to cleave to, no. She's asking not to. It's in Ketubos.
So
Ketubos, which we're in right
11.
now.
There is some.
111 B.
Somebody wants
Chapter
to
111.
discuss.
What do you
Balance,
mean?
balance.
In the Talmud.
So this 11.
And it's referenced at the top where it says, he who Reference 24 for two days.
Okay, that's what.
What to do?
Exactly my question.
Also, it's 24.
In fact, we're kind of always reminded that the oral Torah must.
Here's the
Written.
explanation of what the Torah is
Right.
saying, of course.
Now the question
The
is,
oral Torah says you must.
the question
follow the
is,
stages of the-
Alter Rebbe, that's the Gemara. The Gemara says, whoever cleaves to a Tamach, the Pasuk says, will dafka me. The Pasuk says, you shall cleave to me.
Right.
How do you cleave to God? How do you cleave? How does a human being cleave to HaKadosh Baruch Hu? The way a human being cleaves to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the Gemara answers that that's the way to cleaving to a physical person. That's a Talmud Chacham. How does that work? How does that work? So I cleave. What does that mean? What does it mean to cleave to a Talmud Chacham? I don't know what does that mean. What should I do for him? I shall hug him. What does it mean to cleave to a Talmud Chacham? You have to even understand what it means to cleave to a Talmud Chacham. So that's down to Rebbe goes to the next step. What means to cleave to a Talmud Chacham? And he says the meaning of to cleaving to a Talmud Chacham. How does one cleave to a Talmud Chacham? Or through the attachment to the scholar, the nefesh, shluch, and neshama, but ignorant primitive bound united with its original essence. Meaning you have to connect to the ruach and the neshama of the Talmud Chacham. That you have to connect to his spirit, to his emotion, to his intellect, and that's what we're doing right now. We're learning the Alter Rebbe's
That's
chassidus.
why we're here.
We're learning the Alter Rebbe's chassidus. You're connecting.
Cleave to you.
No. You're connecting to the ruach and the neshama of the Alter Rebbe today. You're connecting to the spirit of the Alter Rebbe by learning his chassidus.
Where you ago?
And by learning the chassidus of the Alter Rebbe, you are connecting to his neshama, and his neshama is self-understood, connected, much deeper connected to the essence of the chachma of the Eibishter. And that's the simple way of doing it. That's what dafka bay. The dafka bay means that I need to connect to this neshama to the best way I can connect to the tzaddik, not just to hug him and serve him, but spiritually to connect to his spirit, to connect to his teachings, and through connecting to the teachings of this neshama, my neshama is elevated to a higher level. So I can really do it on my own, maybe through my machshava, through my own chachma, but I have a stronger connection. I can actually elevate my neshama, my own spirit and wisdom to a higher level through learning through the wisdom of the tzaddik. And that's what it says, that for everybody that I've learned, for everybody I can learn. I can learn. Who is a wise man who learns from everybody? Because we are all interconnected. Our souls are all interconnected. So we are ultimately interconnected to the neshama of a righteous person too. Because his neshama is interconnected with my neshama. And that's why we could learn from everybody. And that's why it's the easiest way, if I want a speedy elevation and a speedy connection, is to connect to somebody who's wiser than me. Somebody who is has more spiritual emotions than me, and to make sure that I have some spiritual connection with them, or with them, whoever it might be. So this is what the pasuk means. So it doesn't mean per se. That's actually call him a shamash tamacham, that the shimush gadol milimudei, that is a concept of actually serving a Talmud Chacham, being there physically for him, not only learning from him, but being there physically for him. Not to move away from the tent. Yeah, 100%. 100%. So that's the model that we need to try to double Talmud Chacham, to cleave to Talmud Chacham, to make sure that, as expression in Pirkei Avos, you should sit at the feet of the sages. You should cleave to their teachings, and you should become spirit to spirit. You should become one with the wisdom of the sages. You should understand, Tanya. You should understand this teaching. I mean, how many times have we learned this Pedic already? But we learn it every year. We should understand what the Alter Rebbe wanted to bring out. in every word of Tanya. What was the Alter Rebbe's machshava? If we can come to that capability to understand the Alter Rebbe's machshava, to understand his wisdom in what he wanted to say in every single word over here in Tanya. So that's the way we cleave to the Alter Rebbe. That's the way we cleave to Chassidus. That's the way we cleave ultimately to God. We have the expression Moshe Rabbeinu last week's Parsha, that Moshe Rabbeinu says, the Yidden said, when God revealed himself to the Jewish nation, the Yidden said we cannot handle God's revelation. We need to have Moshe Rabbeinu, who's going to be the one who's going to be able to give it to us, to be able to give it to us in a way that we can handle it. Be able to explain it to us in a way that we can handle it. And that's the concept of shepherding faith. Faith is a very spiritual thing. It's above intellect. How can a human being that's so confined in intellect to be able to go above, have faith that's above their intellectual capacity? And that's what the tzaddik said. Tzaddik shows you that even though he's a human being, but he has the capability to go above any aspect, any kind of constraints of the world. He has the capability of reaching more than anything that the world will give him, or more than even the world that he lives in. He lives a life that's above the world. And the truth is, we can all do that kind of a concept. We can all live a little bit above our physical constraints. That's to live with emunah, to live with faith. As I said before, it's called Raya Mehemna. In the Zohar, the tzaddik is called Raya Mehemna, the shepherd of faith. Shepherd of faith. Every tzaddik in every generation is a shepherd of faith. That's what it says always. That's what a rav needs to do. That's what a rabbi needs to do. The shepherd faith. To be able to, a beautiful video last night of the Rebbe actually spoke about the rabbis, what rabbis should do, what means a leader, what means a Jewish leader, to be able to give every person what they need, not to just stand above and preach, but to be able to have the feeling of every single individual, not to forget the individual, not to forget the individual.
Oh.
They get big bucks.
Why?
Yeah. Although the attachment of the scholar, the nefesh, the neshama, are bound up and united with the original essence and their root in the supernal wisdom. And he and his wisdom being one, and he is in his knowledge. As for those who are willful, sinful, and rebel against the neshama, comes the nefesh neshama comes from behind the back. So they have. So ultimately, how does a person who rebels against a tzaddik? Tzaddikim had a lot of rebellions in their life, and people that went against them and tried to destroy them. But ultimately, the tzaddik gives to everybody, like the Eibush, the tzaddik, just like God gives to those who rebel against him. The tzaddik also has that unconditional love, and gives because the tzaddik wants to be uplifting. He doesn't care about if the person that his neshama is giving to he wants to receive or doesn't want to receive. The tzaddik is not there. He's not there as a business to receive back something. The tzaddik is there to give. And those who want to receive, and those who don't want to receive anyway. That's the beauty of a righteous person. It's unconditional love. That's the true beauty of a true righteous person. That's why to find righteous people like this in the world is very difficult. You find a person that is total giving, and he has, even though he's a great sage and is a great Talmid Chacham, his total aspect of giving, and there's no strings attached. is not an easy thing to find. They say, even Moshe Rabbeinu, sometimes he gets a little frustrated. He gets a little bit frustrated.
But not
in life.
personally. He gets
But he
frustrated.
do- I understand, but ultimately he gets frustrated. The Eibishter is unhappy with his frustration. And God's unhappy with his frustration. God says, no, that's your job. Your job is to handle to be a shepherd of faith, to be the shepherd for those that are good and those that are bad. It says when Moshe Rabbeinu told to make Yeshua as the next leader, and what does Rashi say? Rashi says you have to tell the Jews, you have to tell Yeshua, though you think you're becoming a leader, you're becoming a leader of that is a stiff-necked nation. You're becoming a leader of those that are boidim by those that are going to try to cut you down. They're gonna try to destroy you. Trust me, you're gonna have dissent. You're not everybody's gonna rah you behind you. You're gonna have people that are gonna come out against you. That's part of the job. That's part of the job, and that's why nobody's elected to this job. Nobody wants to be elected to this job. Not even Moshe Rabbeinu wanted to be elected to the job. So nobody wants to be elected to the job because it's not an easy job to do. There's no glory, there's no honor, there's no money, there's only struggles and headaches. But that's the that's a schus. But a leader should feel that it's a schus. It's a merit that he has the merit to schus to uplift to be a uplifter of the Jewish nation. The famous story of the rabbi who once wrote to the Rebbe, like a Rebbe used to be in the office at 2-3 o'clock in the morning, and he didn't want to knock on the door. So he took a note and he wrote the note and he put it underneath the door. And the Rebbe picked up the note and he responded right away, called the secretary, responded to the note. Next day, the rabbi felt uncomfortable, Rabbi Weinberg, famous Chabad rabbi. And the next day, he felt uncomfortable that he made the Rebbe bend down, right, at 2 o'clock in the morning. He felt, didn't get it the normal way to going to the secretary. So he wrote an apology letter. He apologizes that he wrote this letter and he's flipped it on the door. And he shouldn't have done that, and he apologized. So the Rebbe answered him. He said to him, "That is what a Rebbe does. That is what my neshama came down to the world to bend down and uplift a Jew. So that is what I came to the world for. A Yid has to come to the world to bend down and to uplift another Jew. That's what we need to do. So it's nothing to apologize. That's what the neshama comes down to the world for. Sometimes you got to bend down, and you have to up to lift another person. You have to bend down. You got to lower yourself, and that's what a tzaddik does. So connect to myself. So I said yesterday, the Rebbe's father was a Rav in a big city in Yekaterinslav. He was a big Rav in a big city, and it was not it was a Dnepropetrovsk. He was in Ukraine, and it was not totally a religious city. Even in those days, it was not totally all from the Jews, and he had a hard time to get the Jews to come to shul. On Rosh Hashanah in Kippur. This you see where the Rebbe came from, his father, that he made a minyan. I said this yesterday. He made a minyan. He made an early minyan. He made on Rosh Hashanah Kippur early minyan. Why did he make an early minyan? So that the Yidden would be able to go to work. Right? The Jews that were going to go to work, he was going to be able to go to the minyan. So he made an early minyan so that by 8 o'clock in the morning they'll be able to leave and go to work. Imagine such a today, such a person, it would be in the newspaper, it would be condemned. You're making a minyan, they're going to work, a chutzpah, you should condemn them. We're talking about the 1940s. Not talking about it was a person that had a vision, that understood that they're going to go to work, they're Yidden, and you need to make a minyan for them. They have to hit the Kiyah Shofar even though they're going to work. They got to hit the Kiyah Shofar. They got to daven with a minyan. So they're going to go to work. Why they don't go to work? But he made a minyan for them to make sure that they go to minyan and then they go to work. Progressive thinking. That's a person who understands that condemning them is not going to stop them from going to work. Maybe by making a minyan for them and inspiring them, you're going to inspire them to next year not go to work. And that's what the Rav does. We would always say when we're coming like the older Rabbanim on their vacation time. The last two rabbis go on vacation. They're all preparing the drushes for Rosh Hashanah. They're all preparing their speeches. What they're going to speak on Rosh Hashanah. And everybody has to have a bigger brimstone fire speech, to how his main speech of the year. And what's your main speech of the year? All these rabbis preparing how to, be fire against, tell the Jews how bad they are, and tell the Jews, tell the Jews how bad. He says, no, prepare a speech to uplift the Yidden. Prepare a speech to uplift your flock. Give them an inspirational uplifting. They come in Rosh Hashanah and Kippur, don't condemn them, don't scold them, don't do it with brimstone and fire. Give them an emotional, tell them they're part of Am Yisrael, they're part of the Jewish nation and what they can do, how much more they can do. Be an inspirational, be an inspiring speech. And positive, be a positive influence. Right? Be a person who's going to be positive. And that's what you need to do. That's what ultimately you need to do.
That's what attracts.
So that's the power. That's the tzaddik, the righteous person that gives to those that love him, gives to those that hate him. Moshe Rabbeinu, the Eibush says, I'm going to destroy the Jews that sin. Moshe Rabbeinu says, if you do that, erase me from the book. Right? Moshe Rabbeinu sticks up. That's what Moshe Rabbeinu is greater than Avraham Avinu. Avraham Avinu was ready to give up on Anshe's dime. He gave up on this dime because they were sinners. Moshe Rabbeinu didn't give up on the sinners and on non-sinners.
When did he
give up?
Huh?
How did he give up?
Avraham Avinu, he said, if there's 10, he went to the number 10. If there's no 10 righteous people, then destroy the city. And he walked away. Moshe Rabbeinu didn't walk away from anybody. He said, I'm not walking away from anybody. I don't walk away from the righteous, and I don't walk away from the sinners. I'm going to be there for the righteous, and I'm going to be there for the sinners. And that's what we have to be. We have to be like tzaddikim, who don't walk away from any Jew. Not from the righteous, not even from somebody who's a sinner. For the nefesh neshama of the scholars. As for what is written in the Zohar Chadash, the effect of the essential factor is to conduct oneself in a holy manner during sexual union, which is not the case with the children of the ignorant and so on. The Zohar writes that when two people, when a husband and wife get together, a couple gets together, and they have a relationship, it's all, the Zohar says, it's all in connection to the thought of what they're thinking at the time of conception.
Yeah.
Right? What is the machshava? That's a challenge, because how you expect a simple person to have great spiritual
Enlightenment.
Human beings. So that's a scary thing. That's a scary thing. The Zohar, that statement in Kabbalah is a scary statement. Because if you think about it, what was the person thinking about when they came together? So Alter Rebbe says, relax. He says, don't worry, which is not the case of children of ignorant people, and so on. It's to be understood as meaning that since there's not a nefesh, ruach, and neshama that doesn't have a garment, the nefesh of the father and mother, The Alter Rebbe says the Zohar is not talking about the soul. The Zohar is talking about the clothing of the soul. That's why it says the thought of the parents. It's not the neshama. The neshama is given by God. The parent, the clothes, the garments of this neshama. And the parents have to realize that the Eibishter can give, God can give a pure soul. He does give a pure soul to every child. But the parents give the clothing to this child, give the garments to this child. They give him his character a little bit. His character. They give him his emotions a little bit. And that's the garments of the soul, because you can have a godly soul, a very spiritual soul, but you can have very extremely harsh garments to overcome to reveal this neshama. We can have a handicap. So you're giving your child a handicap in essence. Right? We give our children with our thoughts. That's what even David HaMelech says. When David HaMelech says, "I was born in sin," the Goyim love that expression.
Right.
And why did he say that? Why did he say he was born in? Because how are you born in sin? No child is born in sin. But he meant, you know, the story that his parents really didn't want him, and it was like an oops factor. You know, they had a relation. He thought he was whatever. It's the whole story.
Divorced.
They were separated, and then he didn't want to live with her, and the mistake lived with her one night, and boom, you have David HaMelech. So the image, right, made, and they switched, whatever. It was a oops. It was a mistake. It was a mistake.
I don't know why it's
No, thank God, because she had a. Thank God, somebody had some machshava tov over there. But his father basically, was not focused on this aspect. Nevertheless, he came David HaMelech. Why? Because David still wanted to be David HaMelech. God always likes he likes the oopses. He loves those oopses because he loves the concept of Avodah. Oh, there's a beautiful expression in the Gemara. I wanted to say it on Shabbos. The Gemara. Don't ask me which Gemara, okay?
I was asking for a reason, because I had never
No.
heard that.
I'm joking. The Gemara says, maybe if Chaver had you will tell which Gemara. She looked to Daf Yomi. I don't do that. So Chaver will tell me maybe which Gemara is this. The Gemara says, whoever says on Friday night, that's why we say this together on Friday night. You're supposed to say it together with the minyan. Whoever says on Friday night, "Vayechula Shamayim va'aretz v'chol tzvav, vayechal Elokim b'yom Mashiach malachei hasharos, vayishbesh Mashiach malachei hasharos." You know what I mean? The heavens and the earth and all the hosts were completed, and God finished the seventh day the work. You see, and God finished on the seventh day His work, which He has done, and He rested on the seventh day, and all His work that He has done. And God blessed the seventh day and made it holy. And on it, He rested from all His work, which God created. Says, create to function. Says to do. The Gemara says, whoever says this verse becomes a shutter, he becomes a partner with God in creation. But you got to say this verse. You have to say it. Whoever says why you say this verse? Because the verse says the verse underlines the concept of la'aseh, to do. The Eibishter created the world to a world that you should become a partner in creation. Shouldn't just I mentioned the child didn't just rely on what he did, but la'aseh, to do. The aspect of going out there and being creative and creating the world and making this world a better world. And that's the way you become a partner with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That's the way each and every one of us becomes a partner with the Eibishter, by the aspect of each and every single one of us coming up with something that makes a difference in this world.
With action.
Right? So the question is, how many things have you done that changed the world? I gotta think about it. How many things have I done in the world that actually made a difference in this world? Baruch Hashem. Baruch Hashem. So you got away with it. I'm Yaitzer.
What does it mean to change the world? When you have children, you raise a family, you.
That's it. Yeah.
Am I changing the world?
Yes, you are. Children, you change the world. You change the world. But the truth is that the pasuk. It's interesting. That I mentioned yesterday. I mentioned on Shabbos, same concept, but we say a Motzei Shabbos. We say a bracha, Beirei Me'orei Ha'esh. And what does that bracha symbolize? We say it every Motzei Shabbos, even when it's Tisha B'Av over here, even when we don't make Havdalah. On Motzei Shabbos, you say Beirei Me'orei Ha'esh. You always say Beirei Me'orei Ha'esh, even Yontiv, whatever. On Motzei Shabbos, you say Beirei Me'orei Ha'esh. You got to say it, even in days you don't make Havdalah. You got to say Beirei Me'orei Ha'esh. What's Beirei Me'orei Ha'esh? The Eibishter created Beirei Me'orei Ha'esh. He created fire. He created fire. Created fire. Created fire. Who created fire? He created fire. When there was a fire in heaven. There was a fire in heaven. What do you mean? Beirei Me'orei Ha'esh? I just want to see the exact translation of Beirei Me'orei Ha'esh. Sorry. Who creates the lights of fire. Okay. Light of fire. What does that mean? The light of fire. Yeah. Gemara says, it's Gemara. Gemara says,
He was scared.
Gemara says he was afraid to leave Gan Eden. So he took two flintstones. The Eibishter, he happened to pass by two flintstones, and he picked it up and he hit it. And sparks came out. Beirei Me'orei Ha'esh. The Eibishter, say, thank God that the Eibishter created the light of fire.
You said this yesterday.
Yeah. The light of fire. That the capability to make fire. Capability of making fire. Why do we do this every Motzei Shabbos? We do this every Motzei Shabbos because we're going into the week, right? We didn't work, and now we have the Eibishter created such a beautiful world. Now take two stones together, or whatever you want to, whatever that means. Take the world, bring things together, and you'll create things. You'll bring out something, right? That's it. Become creative. If Adam and Isha wouldn't have hit that first two Flintstones, maybe we wouldn't have fire. Maybe we would never know that two Flintstones can bring fire. Who would think that two rocks can bring out fire?
So wasn't it that he had sinned, and now there was darkness?
Right. So now but the Eibishter didn't give him fire. I always thought the Eibishter gave him the fire. Right. So the Eibishter didn't give him the fire. He didn't. I always thought the message said that he hid the dollar candle. No, he didn't do that. He chanced on two Flintstones. He picked them up. He banged them together. That fire. He banged them together, and boom! And it created a fire. So he said a bracha. Beirei Me'orei Ha'esh. Look how the Eibishter created the light in fire. Created the capability to bring up fire. What an unbelievable! But the Eibishter didn't do it to him. The Eibishter didn't give him a fire. He didn't hand him a fire. He gave him two stones. Who imagine that two stones are going to come out fire? Who imagine two stones going to come out fire?
He was a
There was two stones that are laying in water. Actually, the episode of Flintstones, it says Flintstones can lay in water. Lay in water, take them out of the water, you hit them together, you have fire.
Why don't we light
So-
the Kabbalah candle with
Can,
two flint
is
stones?
it? No, because we have a lighter.
We got-
So, thank God, ultimately.
God made the beautiful.
No, but ultimately it's something scratching. It creates fire. Not that thing, not the Flintstone. No, but that's imagination. That the Abish said, I've given humans imagination. I've given, and that's all you need to do. Take two Flintstones. Take two stones that are sitting in water. They can sit in water, and in them you have the essence of fire. That shows you how far a person physicality can bring about through the creative mind of a human being. That's why we shouldn't be afraid of technology or advancement of it. That's the opposite. Use it. David should created the will for that.
They said-
Last I say.
Remember
to do.
the Rebbe, who gave you a match.
So now if you have why am I saying this? Because you have when a child is brought up, is created by his parents with garments that are defected.
Yeah.
He can be a Flintstone. He's sitting in water. Can't imagine that he'll be able to have a spark within him. Why? Not because he doesn't have the spark within him. Not that he doesn't have he doesn't have that spark that can create a flame of fire. Doesn't realize that because he has his spark is sitting in a stone.
They think.
They think because nothing is affected because your neshama is pure, so he's not affected at all. But that's what Chassidus said. That's why it's important that the parents have holy thoughts when they're creating this child, so that they don't give him, they give him a defected soul. They give him a defected garment. They give him, they might give him a impure garment. The Lubavitch Rebbe, said, even as a child, we shouldn't surround our children. There was in the play, there used to be the play,
Mobiles.
the mobile state, surrounds all these animals, the pigs and the bears. And you'd say, why would you show them kosher animals? Surround them with kosher vision. Surround them with something. Why? Because ultimately these are things affect the child. And you're giving them garments. You're not the neshama is the neshama, but you're giving them garments. You are giving them things that they are going to become part of them. And now it's going to be difficult for them to divest themselves from these garments. Even the purity of the soul. It starts with conception. That's a conception over here, the Zohar says. So but that doesn't change anything. David HaMelech comes David HaMelech. That's why he's from himself. Self-made man. And we all could be self-made men and women. We all don't have to have that our parents are holy to become holy. So that's what the Alter Rebbe says, that he ends off this chapter. We'll end it off the chapter, and then we can start next week. Number 3. So it's not to get you. So let's end the sword. Father and mother, in essence, all the commandments that he fulfills are influenced by the garments, and that's a problem. That's sad. That's a problem. So a person's born in a negative environment. How are you supposed to be able to outbreak this negative environment? He's in garment that can and all the benevolence that flows from the one from heaven, and all is given through that garment. Hence, self-satisfaction one will cause to descend from the neshama of one's child a holy garment. However great the soul may be, it still needs the Father's sanctification. It still needs the Father's sanctification to make sure, because again, according to Chassidus, it's the Father's sanctification because it comes from the Chachma of the Father. So therefore, it's important the Father's sanctification at the time that he realizes that he's doing this. He's trying to bring down a neshama. He's trying to bring down a neshama in a perfect kind of situation, perfect kind of garment. And that would be the best situation. That would be the best situation. that the neshama is pure and the garment is pure. Ideal. But the soul itself, that has nothing to do with the soul. It sometimes happens that the soul of an infinitely lofty person comes to the son of despised and lowly men. The neshama comes from the Eibishter. All of this is explained in Arizal, in Kuti Teda, in Pashas Ve'eda, in Termim Atzmus, and Pashas Bereshis. You can look all these Kabbalahs that you can find that all, as I mentioned, Davar HaMelech, all great Akira Akiva, etc. We can give you a list of great people, great tzaddikim who came from questionable relationships and questionable marriages and not such great history in their past, and still became great leaders of Am Yisrael. And why? Because they had a neshama. They had the Eibishter gave them a neshama. So everybody over here can be the next David HaMelech, because you don't know. Too old, no. Too old. Moshe Rabbeinu started his job. Moshe Rabbeinu started his journey. How old was he? 80.
80.
He's 80. He's so finished. So watch him out. So you still got possibility. Don't close the gate. Don't close the gate. He was 80 years old, and he was a leader too. Yeah. So get to work. Avraham Avinu is introduced us to how old is he? 75 years old. Yaakov Avinu, 70. They're all older people. Yaakov Avinu gets married at 75 years old. They're all older people. Rabbi Akiva started to learn when he was 40 years old. Ultimately became a great sage. He was 60 years old, over 60 years old. So there's no age when it comes to this aspect. We're all young, and we all need to realize the potential we have is unlimited, because the neshama we have, it doesn't make a difference. You're right. The background, maybe we don't have so great background. Maybe our parents are not so great. Maybe our grandparents are not so great. Maybe we ourselves are not so great. But we have a neshama that's a chelik alakam imal mamash. A neshama that's a part of God Himself, that is infinite, and therefore every one of us could be the next. Let's end over the story, a beautiful story of Baal Shem Tov. And once a chassid came to Baal Shem Tov, it said the story many times, maybe you heard this. Once a chassid came to Baal Shem Tov and said, and he did a favor for Baal Shem Tov, great favor for him. Baal Shem Tov said, I'll give you anything you want. He said, the chassid said, I want to see Gilui Eliyahu Navi. I want to see a revelation of Elijah the prophet. So Baal Shem Tov said, okay. He said, okay, I'll give you this thing, I'll give you this prize. Come to me before Yom Tov, for Rosh Hashanah, and I'll tell you about it. Come to me a week before Rosh Hashanah, and I'll tell you how to do it. So the chassid came a couple of days before Rosh Hashanah. Rosh Hashanah said, okay, get your suitcase, take a lot of food with you for you need for Yom Tov, a lot of food, and go to this in the city. It's to take you a couple of days to travel. Knock on this door, and be invited in and stay there for Yom Tov. And on Rosh Hashanah, Eliyahu Navi is going to be there on Rosh Hashanah. So the guy packed his bags, came to Erev Rosh Hashanah. He goes to the address, knocks on the door. It's a poor little house, a little shack. Knocks on the door. The Yid says, the lady comes to the door and says, what can I do for you? He says, I'm supposed to, can you host me for Rosh Hashanah? She says, you can gladly come in it, but I have no food. There's no food in the house. Don't worry. We have enough food. We have enough food. Yeah, we have enough food for 2 days. Yom Tov for you and your whole family. Packs up the house. That's a Yom Tov that the family didn't have in history, right? And he's waiting for Eliyahu Navi. And the whole Yom Tov goes by. Garnished. He runs back to the Baal Shem Tov. He gallops back. He comes to Baal Shem Tov and says, I was there. It was beautiful Yom Tov. And the family was very happy. It was a beautiful Yom Tov. But no Eliyahu Navi. Shem Tov says it's not possible. It has to be that Eliyahu Navi is there. So I'm telling you, so pack it up again. Make sure you're there before Yom Kippur. I'm telling you, you're gonna same place. But before you knock on the door, just put your ear to the door. I want you to put your ear to the door before you knock on the door. Listen, listen in. So he packs up the thing again. He comes, and before he knocks on the door, he puts his ear to the door, and he hears the children they're crying to their mother. Says, "What are we gonna eat to every kippur the fast? We have no food in the house." The mother says, "Listen, Eliyahu Navi came for Rosh Hashanah. Eliyahu Navi will come for Yom Kippur. Don't worry, Eliyahu Navi will be here for Yom Kippur." Right, I realized he was Eliyahu Navi. It's a beautiful story. God bless you all, everybody. Have a wonderful day. Let's continue learning. See you next Sunday.